My name is Filipe, and I come from Portugal. I belong to this Verbum Dei Missionaries community of Pansol, Quezon City. I would like, more than to welcome you, I would like to thank you that you are welcoming me, especially those who invited me today for this sharing. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be with you all here. So what's going to happen here today, we will listen to the gospel in a while. Jay will read it from the United States. And then I will give my guidelines. After the guidelines, there is a moment of prayer for 30 minutes. And then after that, there is a sharing. And we encourage you to stay after the guidelines because there is always an issue here that the preacher normally very discouraged because he thinks half of the people go away because the preaching was not good. So to avoid the depression of the of those who give the guidelines and discouragement, we would like really to have your collaboration so that we feel a bit inspired to be here again and not with the feeling of guilty that we ruined the whole thing. After 100 then comes down to 50 and the preacher normally says, what have I done? My God, sorry, I don't want to give guidelines anymore. So if you can help us with that, that would be fine. So Jay, I give you the line. Let's listen to the gospel.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
On the evening of that first day of the week, when the doors were locked, where the disciples were, for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood in their midst and said to them, "Peace be with you." When he had said this, he showed them his hands and his side. The disciples rejoiced when they saw the Lord. Jesus said to them again, "Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I send you." And when he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, "Receive the Holy Spirit. Whose sins you forgive are forgiven them, and whose sins you retain are retained." Thomas, called Didymus, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples said to him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands, and put my finger into the nail marks, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." Now, a week later, his disciples were again inside, and Thomas was with them. Jesus came, although the doors were locked, and stood in their midst and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and see my hands, and bring your hand and put it into my side. And do not be unbelieving, but believe." Thomas answered and said to him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Have you come to believe because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and have believed." Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples that are not written in this book. But these are written that you may come to believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that through this belief you may have life in his name. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So, my dear friends, this gospel is the gospel of the coming Sunday, in which we also celebrate the Sunday of the Mercy. But we will just focus for today in the gospel. And actually, this gospel has two parts. It's good that it's one part. The first one is Jesus shows himself to the disciples. And the second part is Jesus coming back to meet Thomas. He had already to ascend into heaven, and he had to delay it for 8 days. Imagine, the solemnity of the ascension into heaven was delayed because of Thomas. He came back to meet him. So my first question of the first part of the gospel is, how were the disciples? Jesus presents himself in the midst of them. How were they? Well, to know how the disciples were, we can try to put ourselves in their shoes, or more precisely in their sandals. I don't think they had shoes at that time, but let's put ourselves in their shoes. Or we can try to remember some experiences of our lives where we felt frustrated and disappointed, because that's all what it is about when it comes to imagine the feelings of the disciples. Let's not forget that they have been 3 years with Jesus, and that they left everything behind to follow him. They left their own families. They left their hometowns. They left some business. They left almost everything to follow Jesus, because they were so enthusiastic about what Jesus promised them: a new kingdom, a new world, come and follow me, and so on and so on. And now they are just realizing that everything was a failure. Jesus died, did nothing to avoid his death, so they might have been feeling a bit disappointed. Remember that now we approach these Gospels and we already know the end of the story, but we have to situate ourselves in the shoes of someone who did not know what will be coming next. So these disciples, they did not know what will come next. And so the only feeling I would say, we can imagine that was going on with them was this one of, I would say, frustration, disappointment, like all their efforts, all their dreams, all their expectations, napunta sa wala. Everything really seemed to be the end. They were broken-hearted, and who knows if they were also angry with God, because that's a very common feeling when our plans do not push through. When something happens that ruins our plans totally, sometimes we get angry with God. They might have been angry with Jesus. You left us. You promised us so many beautiful things, and now you disappeared. We thought that you will be the winner. We thought that you will be strong, and then that's all a failure. But the good thing for us today is go back to the experiences of life where you trusted someone with all your being. You left behind sometimes even your family, your country, your belongings, and many things that you treasured only for the sake of following someone, a friend, a husband, a boyfriend, or a girlfriend. Or we put our trust in someone with a lot of consequences and sacrifices. And then it comes a moment where this person disappoints us. He was not whom we expected. That was probably how the disciples were feeling at this precisely moment. The same way someone feels after being betrayed or deceived by someone else, this is how the disciples might have been. How does it feel? No? Broken-hearted, confused, and for sure you don't want to see anyone. You just want to hide in a shell And that's where they were. They were locked down. They did not want to see anyone. That's what happens to us also when we are in the same situation. Another kind of feelings that they might have had at the moment they were hiding was the feeling of guilty, the low autoesteem, and maybe they were also feeling a bit shameful. Probably they also felt that. They promised a lot of things during those 3 years to Jesus. Peter even said, I will give my life to you. I will die for you. St. Thomas said, let's die with the Master. Let's go. They promised a lot of things. But in the end, they realized they were like cowards. Duwag pala sila. They left him alone. They were afraid. It was much more stronger in them, this instinct to save their own lives than to give their lives to Jesus. And when we realize this, sometimes we feel a bit shameful and guilty. This is all the reason why they were hiding, probably. They were hiding in a shell. They felt ashamed and with low autoesteem and quite guilty. Actually, it's a very common experience, realizing that there is an ideal image of who I am. I think that I am this one, so perfect, so good, so Christian, so pious. And then there is the real ego, the real I, which normally there is a big gap from the ideal person I would like to be and the real person I am. And when we realize this, sometimes we don't like, and it's really painful. It's painful. It is the problem of the image. We like to give an image of who we are, which normally is a very, very good person, very faithful person, very enthusiastic person. But when we look into our own actions, we find ourselves the same as those who don't have faith. We are the same. We have the same fear of dying. We have the same panic of getting sick. We have the same gossiping. We have the same love to money and comfort, the same weaknesses, the same sins, the same temptations. We are the same. And that's what the disciples realized. Physically, they were very near to Jesus, very close to him. But in reality, they were like everyone. They were not special. And this is the moment where the disciples realize it, when they look back to their own actions and they realized, oh my God, there are so many contradictions in my life. So this is how I guess, this is the answer of the question, no? How were the disciples and how they hide themselves in this lockdown room? And they were really sheltering behind, like as if they were painting their minds and playing a joker. No, they were hiding before an image of themselves. Anyway, so now Jesus shows himself to the disciples. This is the next step in our slides. In this situation, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." And it's very important to ask, why were they so joyful when they saw Jesus? For me, they were joyful not only because they saw Jesus, but because they saw how Jesus came. The disciples rejoiced probably because of the how, because of the mood in which Jesus came. His mood was peaceful. He was there not to blame them. Given the situations of the disciples that we described, their joy was not only to see Jesus, but rather to see how he came. The joy of being with one person is not only to be with him or with her. is depends on the mood of the person with whom we are. We feel joyful or not. And Jesus did not come with ironies. Diba? I was thinking, Jesus could have come and could have been very ironic with them, like making questions. Well, when were you on the Good Friday? I saw you were running so fast. Oh my God. Were you, training for the Olympic Games in Japan next year or in August? Or you were running, were you training for the 100 meters? You're so fast. I mean, sometimes we have some bosses that really approach us with a lot of ironies. We did not do any work and he comes and said, oh, how much work have you done? Oh, this is perfect. And we just know that he's being ironic. And that's the same. Jesus did not come with this spirit of throwing the past to their faces. Jesus did not come reminding them how bad they were. Jesus did not come like reminding them their own inconsistencies or reminding them that he was right and they were wrong. But there are people like this. When something happens, instead of rejoicing or being sad because of whatever happened, some people, the real interest they have is reminding that they were right. You see, I was right. I told you, I was right. It doesn't matter. Just rejoice of what happened or be sad of what happened. But the problem here is not if you are right or not right. And Jesus, he did not come in this mood just to remind them, I was right, you were wrong. So that's why I think at that moment, the disciples, as it was in the slide kanina, realized that Jesus loved them much more than they could have thought or imagined. Much more. Just think for a moment, if it was you who have been risen from the dead by the Father after being scourged and crucified and humiliated, what would have been the first thing that you would have done? Probably, if you would have been given all the power in the world, probably you would have gone to Pilate or to Caiaphas or to the soldiers. Diba there is this, galit, you humiliated me, you scourged me, you nailed me in the cross. So if it was me, if the Father raised me from the dead, what will I do? Maybe I will take revenge to these people. That's the first thing I would do. So when we read the gospel, it is important not only to read what is there, but also to notice what is not there. What Jesus did not do. This is also a very important message. There are so many things to do if we are giving all the power in the world. Again, it is very important to notice what is not said. Jesus did not go to the emperor of Rome to kill him or to humiliate him. He was not so worried to destroy enemies. He was worried to restore his friends. And Jesus showed with this that he is more worried to save the world than to condemn the world. And that's why the disciples really realized that Jesus loved them much more than they could thought of or that they could imagine. The joy comes from there. Jesus came to restore them, to show them a way out, and to get their hearts back, and to get them back on the road. So now, we come to the second part of the gospel where Jesus comes back to meet Thomas. Where was Thomas? This is a good question. It is not said there. We don't know where he was, but we know that he delayed the solemnity of the ascension into heaven. That's the only thing we know. But where was he? We don't know, but it's probably not difficult to imagine. Just try to imagine where a man could be if he is alone, if he is full of stress, if he is not wanted to be seen or to give details of his identity. He was really running. I am sure he was very far from Jerusalem. I am sure he was, well, alone and trying to find some comfort for his loneliness. There is a song that says, if you are not feeling holy, your loneliness tells that you have sinned. Anyway, where was Thomas? We don't know. He was on the road. Maybe he was drinking. Maybe he was in a video karaoke bar. We don't know. Maybe he had to stop in a motel. We don't know where. We don't know where he was. He was not there. Where was he? There is this song of Anak, no? Nagdaan pa ang mga araw, at ang landas mo'y naligaw, ikaw ay nalulong sa masamang bisyo. That's where he probably was. We don't know. Jesus comes like a good shepherd. He calls him by name and leads them out where he was. Where we might be, wherever we might be, Jesus, like a good shepherd, comes to us, calls us by name, and leads us out of where we were. And this is something very beautiful. We can see here how Jesus came as a good shepherd. Out of where? Why? Because Jesus knows exactly what you are feeling, because of all troubles are within you, and he drives you out of there. So how does Jesus give comfort to Thomas? Not like we normally do. Diba? There is a way of giving comfort to people. Kalimutan mo na yan, tapos na yan, wag mo na yan, iisipin pa. Diba? We try to comfort people saying, don't think about it, forget your troubles, the traumas, forget everything. Jesus gives him a new vision. Actually, he does not want him to forget the trauma of Good Friday, but rather he asks him to look at it, to touch it, but with a new vision. Jesus offers him a new vision of the past. The way Jesus has to comfort Thomas is not forget about the past. Don't think anymore about it. No, he does not say that. He says, I cannot change the past. It is how it is. It is what it is. The past cannot be changed. It happened. It was real. And it is real. That's what it happened. This is our history. So that's the way he comforts us. It's not forget about it. It's look at it, but look at it with a new vision. Look at it with my eyes. Look at it with new eyes. And this is the fruit of resurrection, not changing the past, but looking at it with a transformed life. What is transformed is our life. It's not the past. The past remains the same. Our wounds, when we were betrayed, when we were deceived, when people lied to us, when people harmed us, when people abused us, when people disappointed us, when also we were the ones harming others, this cannot change, will not be changed. But we can look at it with a different way. And this is the new vision of that Jesus brings us in the resurrected time. What is this vision? I tried to put here in English and Tagalog, so really, if there is a problem with English, you pick up the Tagalog, and if there is a problem with the Tagalog, you just take it in English. What is this new vision? Where sin increased, the grace of God overflowed all the more, which is to say, all the evil and wickedness of the people, of us, all our double face and deceitful face, all our ungratefulness towards God, all our betrayals, our lies, and weaknesses altogether did not change the love of God for each one of us and for all the people in the world. This is for me the message of the gospel. And we can say it in Tagalog so that you will not forget it. Ibig sabihin na, ang kasamaan ng tao, ni ang ating pagiging doble cara, ang ating kawalan ng utang na loob sa Diyos, ni ang ating pagiging duwag at ang ating pagkakanulo sa Kanya. Wala sa mga ito ang makakapanibago sa pagmamahal ng Diyos sa ating at sa buong mundo. So this, for me, is really the message of the gospel for the next Sunday, which has a lot to do also with mercy, which we are going to celebrate. That's why, my dear friends, I tell you, as St. Augustine also told us, he said, don't run away from God when you are weak, when you feel guilty or ashamed, but rather run to his hands. Don't run away like Thomas. He really ran away because of his shame, his feeling guilty or whatever, or his being angry with God. Rather, run to his hands. Huwag kang tumakbo palayo sa Panginoon. Sa halip, tumakbo ka palapit sa Kanya. And this is really, for me, what Jesus is telling us through this narrative of the appearances to Thomas and to the disciples. If you are in a situation of feeling guilty or shameful because whatever thing you have done, or with low auto-esteem, because you just realize now that you are not an angel, but you are just human. Even if it is after 52 years of life that we realize we are not angels, there is no problem with it. You are human. So if you did something that humans do and you are not an angel, don't worry. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. Don't worry. Just run. Do not run away from him. Run to him. This is what it's all about. If you feel frustrated, deceived by your beloved ones, or left behind by the person from whom you expected to be loved, understood, and protected, don't run away from God. Run to his hands like Thomas did. And tell him, Lord, I want you. I want to know you. I want to touch you. I want to feel you. Let me near you and pray like that. And you know that he knows everything that you are thinking, that you are feeling, and he is always there for you. So now, in the last point of these guidelines, I will just call attention to something that is in the gospel, which is about the name of Thomas, because diba, we read it, Thomas was called Didymus. That's what Jay just read in the gospel kanina. And Didymus is a Greek word that means twin. So Thomas was called the twin. And why? Twin of whom? Where is his twin brother in the gospel? We don't know. So this is probably, some people say that this is probably a literary device, which means na the twin brother of Thomas is the reader. So you can be the twin brother of Thomas or not. So that's one of the questions now for your reflection. Who is the twin brother of Thomas? It's another thing that it's not said in the gospel, and it's important to reflect about. So as a conclusion, for me, this gospel is an invitation to meet God in my wounds, in my Good Fridays. The Good Fridays is not just last week. We have Good Fridays every day. And we are called to meet God there. If you are distracted in your prayer, if you cannot find the presence of God in your prayer, there was a spiritual director who told me once, if you cannot really concentrate, you don't find God anywhere in your prayer, you are distracted all the time, go to your crosses, go to your weaknesses and contradictions, go to your betrayals, to your lies, and God will be there. That's where you will find him because he's there loving you. And you might say afterwards, my God and my Lord. Not the God of Israel, not the God of my catechist, not the God of my parents, not the God of the missioneros. No, my Lord and my God. You are the Lord of my history, not the history of the world in general, the universal history, the one who was behind the Big Bang. And so God the Creator, these are so general concepts. And for the first time, someone says, my God, my Lord. It's not general. It's my God and my Lord. You are the one healing me of all my wounds, not the wounds of others, my wounds, my Lord and my God. Actually, it's very beautiful, especially in South America, when we celebrate the Mass, and then there is these moments where we say, with him, in him, and for him, or I can't remember how is it, por Cristo, con Cristo, y en Cristo. No? And then when you raise the Holy Host, the crowd, the assembly says, my Lord and my God. They express the same words of St. Thomas, mi Señor y mi Dios. It's really a reminder that we have this opportunity in every Eucharist to express the same prayer of St. Thomas. Okay, so this is it, my friends. As I told you at the beginning, we encourage you now really to stay for 30 minutes of prayer, personal prayer and reflection, and then also to stay for the sharing if you can. And if you cannot, just try this time. There is a first time for everything. This could be your first time. And then you are free to be not there, not to be there the next time, but you are not free to make your trial the first time. Okay, see you later. Thank you so much.